How do you know what resources a client actually needs? Now, constructed awareness teaches that every conscious experience is constructed from three fundamental building blocks. That's what's happening in the mind, the mental building block, what's happening in the body, the sensation building block, and what's happening in the environment, and that's the external building block. We all rely on these building blocks at different times, but sometimes people tend to rely more heavily on one than they do the others. Now, in CA, we call this reliance orientation. And understanding a client's orientation can actually help guide the therapist in picking the resources that would be most useful in therapy. So, for example, someone who is more mentally oriented, they rely more on logic and reason to regulate themselves. Therefore, they rely more heavily on the mental building block than they do the sensation or external. So, resources that focus more on the mind, like reframing thoughts, for example, they may not always be what the client needs because they aren't teaching the client about the parts of themselves that are less developed. So instead, we might focus on resources that help expand their awareness of their less developed building blocks, which would be sensation and external, so that they can become more familiar with those parts of their experience. Now, the same is true for any orientation. So if someone relies more heavily on sensation, on their bodies, we might introduce resources that develop greater awareness of the mental and external building blocks. Now, if someone is externally oriented, we might help them to develop a greater awareness of what's happening in their mind and their body. So the goal isn't to take away someone's primary orientation. It's to expand their awareness so that they can have a greater access to all three building blocks, to have a greater sense of a holistic self. So in constructed awareness trainings, therapists learn how to assess client orientation, how to determine what building block they rely on the most, and also we learn specific resources for developing each of the three building blocks. So that helps us answer two important questions. One, what does the client need more aware of? And two, how can I help them develop it? So if you'd like to learn more about constructed awareness or upcoming trainings, please visit constructedawareness.com. And until next time, take care.